In exercise 219, Vencor Company is estimating its overhead and looking for ways to reduce its costs. Now, in the problem itself, we're told that they estimated overhead of $2 million, and then they said that they had an estimated machine hours. So in this problem, we're just going to do one allocation base. So the estimated machine hours were 100,000. So then the predetermined overhead rate would be the quotient of the two. So we would take $2 million divided by 100,000 estimated machine hours, or $20 per machine hour. Now, since Vencor believes that this is a bit expensive, they're looking for ways to cut costs. They devise a system whereby 30,000 machine hours are reduced, or reduce machine hours by 30,000. So the question is, what will overhead costs be if this were the case? Well, one of the issues in following GAAP and taking a predetermined overhead rate is that it treats all of the overhead costs as if they were behaving the same way. So if we reduced machine hours by 30,000 and overhead were truly $20 per machine hour, then we would have a reduction. So according to GAAP, we would have a reduction of $20 per machine hour multiplied by $30,000, or a $600 savings. But the question that we have to ask is, do overhead costs really behave this way? And we'll see how well I can highlight this here, because I want to make sure that we bold, underline, and all that good stuff here. And I think that worked. So the question is an issue of behavior, because if we reduce overhead by, or reduce our activity by 30,000, do we reduce overhead costs? And the short answer is no. So do the costs really behave this way? Well, here we have to examine cost by behavior. So of the estimated overhead, we can break this down into fixed and variable components. So we're told in the problem that 80% of the overhead is fixed and is related to depreciation, which means that the remainder, 1 minus 80%, or 20%, would be variable. So 80% of the overhead costs, or 1.6 million, would be unchanged. So we couldn't go from 2 million up here and have 600,000 in savings, because we have these depreciation costs that are not going to be changing regardless of how many machine hours we work. So, what we have to then examine is, well, of the variable costs then, in other words, 20% of that 2 million estimated overhead. So we had 400,000 of variable costs. So on a per unit basis, we would have 400,000 divided by the estimated machine hours, or $4 per machine hour. So if machine hours cause variable overhead costs. It would cause it on a $4 per unit basis. So we should merge and center these two and then put this in our box here. It's inappropriate, do not present on per unit basis. It'd be inappropriate to present fixed overhead on a per unit basis. Nevertheless, it doesn't stop people from doing so. But the overhead costs aren't behaving that way. So when we're looking at our incremental analysis, what could we save from reduced machine hours? Well, what we could actually save would be 30,000 machine hours reduction multiplied by the $4 per hour of variable costs. So we could actually save 120,000. Now that's not a it's not a trivial amount, but it's far from the overall savings that would be one would perceive to be under GAAP. So the amount that we could actually save is 120,000. So the new overhead from this reduction would be the $2 million less the 120,000. So again, the issue here is that the overhead costs do not all behave the same way, and we have to take that into account when we are trying to come up with an appropriate course of action.